If you've been scrolling TikTok or Instagram or any social media lately, you've probably seen it all. It's time for a new year, new you. Time to either maybe lose weight or, start a new exercise program. But today we're going to bring you a whole different viewpoint. It's going to be a new year, new mindset, letting go to grow.
That's right. Happy New Year. We are excited to be spending time together with you. Today, we're going to dive deep into, what does it mean to add more to your life versus if you focus on removing what no longer serves you. We really want to dive deep into why this approach matters, because a lot of times we want to add all of these things into our lives, especially when it's been a new year and, it just seems like, it's the never ending. I want to do this, this, and this. But really what that can lead to is overwhelm, and it doesn't create that space for clarity, growth, and success in your life and business. And so today we really want to dive into how do we create that space for clarity, growth, and success inside of your business and life.
Yeah, I think they say, Linz, maybe it's like 14 days after January 1st. January 1st comes, people set all these New Year's resolutions, and then 14 to 21 days later, it's like, wah. Like, what happened? Like, they kind of go out the wayside. So, new year, new you, we're going to look at it, letting go to grow. So let's talk about what's holding you back. This is something that I think a lot of times we avoid, or we don't even realize that we're avoiding. And it's holding on to guilt. I can think of times in my life where I didn't even realize what was holding me back, but a lot of it had to do with feeling guilty about something. So when you think about what even is guilt? And guilt stems from the belief that, hey, I've done bad things and I need to be punished. And the impact that guilt can have on your subconscious. We have the conscious part of the brain and the subconscious part of the brain. The subconscious part of the brain is designed to create programs in life so that you don't consciously have to go through life thinking about things. And, the impact of guilt on that subconscious really can lead to self-sabotage. And really, if you've ever experienced imposter syndrome, that's a good example of why sometimes you may be holding on to guilt.
And I think imposter syndrome can really show up for everybody. And I think, Jen, what it reminds me of is just right now with all the stuff going on with the NIL, if you follow college sports at all, you're familiar with what the NIL is. And so now, every athlete at a college level has the opportunity to earn money, and there's no cap on it. There's all this chaos kind of going on inside of it. And what I've noticed, and I live in a college town, and there's a couple of athletes that stand out in particular to me. One of them was a college basketball transfer that came to K-State who was killing it at his previous school. And, this was before an NIL deal. Now he got a couple $1 million and he's really struggled. He's doing an average of 3 points per game. And I can just tell, from a perspective of, thinking about the conscious and the subconscious mind, what's going on with him. And it's, that low havingness. It's when you're in college, a lot of times you just haven't had as much life experience yet. And so your havingness is usually pretty low. Most people don't go to college and think I'm going to be rich in college. They go to college and think, hey, I'm going to be broke and struggle. And, maybe I'm going to have to debate between, buying something off the dollar menu or, how I'm going to spend, the very little amount of money that I have. And, these young college athletes are coming in and just their havingness isn't there for, the life that it is that they're trying to create. And I think the same thing happens inside of the salon all the time. It's like, you got to put in those reps, you got to put in that work to really be able to see hey, I am worthy of this that I'm creating. Because if you had a brand new stylist come in and you just gave them $100,000 right off the bat, I'm sure we would all love to do that. It's not, whether we think that they have the havingness or not. It's whether they think that they are worthy of that, and guilt is the number one driver. Most of them would feel so guilty for that because they would probably be messing up hair left and right, even more than what you're supposed to have in that learning curve of being a new stylist or service provider on a team, mostly just because they wouldn't have the havingness for it yet. They haven't cleared the guilt. They haven't built the person that it takes to really maintain and hold that 100K salary or whatever it is. That's just an example.
That's such a great example. I think about, I had a cousin that actually won the lottery. And so like a lot of times you hear on TV, like people winning the lottery and going broke and, couple months or couple years later. And my cousin, he actually won, I think it was 2.4 million out the door. And, again, he didn't have that havingness. He had stories around guilt, around money, around behavior with money. And in less than 12 months, I think it was maybe 16 months, that 2.4 million was gone. And so like, it is just so incredible to really think about this, is like how much is that low havingness stopping us from being like what we're fully capable of. And so like, when you think about, keep talking about this idea of releasing guilt. And when you think about that, like taking time, this is a beautiful exercise to do with yourself, but taking time with yourself, like even setting a timer for 5 or 10 minutes, and then just writing down all the things that you feel guilty about on a piece of paper. Like just in your own silence, no one has to be watching. You never have to share this with a single soul. And it can date back to when you were 5 or 6 or 10 years old. It doesn't have to be today. But like having that magic of writing everything down that you feel guilty about and reflecting on these feelings, wow, that is a huge symbolic act of release. And when you're able to release that and you're able to like really clear that subconscious and really discover what you're fully capable of.
Jen, I love that so much. I think really when you do clear that guilt, it removes all of those negative emotions that you have associated with it. It really helps you to clear your subconscious mind so that you can actually take on new information. You and I were just talking about how, so many people do like positive affirmations and different things like that. And, if you don't have the space to take that stuff on, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you're saying to yourself at all. I am this, I'm that. Well, if you have guilt, you're never going to believe that you are any of those things. So if you really do take the opportunity to, like Jen said, write that list of everything that you feel guilty about and burn it or rip it to shreds or flush it down the toilet or whatever it is that you do to eliminate that from your life, that's what can set you up to move forward without feeling like an imposter. It's that guilt that makes you feel like an imposter. And I actually, just heard somebody talking the other day about parenthood. And a lot of parents think that, they help develop confidence in their kids by praising them. But actually what gives their kids confidence is having the competence to do different activities. And so really encouraging your kids to do the activities. So, this could relate inside of the salon by, not saying, oh, you did a great job, on that last highlight you did or facial you did. Sure, that's great. Giving that positive feedback and affirmations it's a really great tool, but really talking about their competence and really showcasing like, hey, sometimes like they were brave in a situation, things like that, not just like giving the words, but like showing them how they are competent, showing your kids how they are competent, showing your teammates how they are competent. That's what can really help build that confidence. And it really all starts with eliminating that guilt to even be able to take something new on.
Yeah, man, I love that. And so when you think about it, like really when you're able to live in that space of letting go of guilt, it helps you to become more present and become a more empowered leader. Presence is it's very simple. It's really just to be with yourself, to be with someone. And like when you can live in that power of presence, I've experienced it myself, your life can change. And you're probably thinking, okay, well, what is presence again, Jen? And so presence really is just a simple exercise that helps You let go of bad feelings, thoughts, and pains. And it's not about adding anything, like Lindsay was saying, or like adding the affirmations or adding new ideas, but it's kind of clear. It's not kind of, it is clearing your mind of unwanted emotions.
I love, that the power of presence is incredible. And I think, if you ever walk in to the salon and you can just tell somebody is discombobulated or they've got a lot going on, even just, taking 30 seconds or 60 seconds to sit across from them and experience a presence exercise can really transform their whole entire day. And,
Mhm.
Also yours, like it's a powerful thing for both people. And so, you might be thinking, how do I practice presence? And it truly is when you sit across from somebody, knee to knee is great, and just look into each other's eyes. It doesn't even matter the time, really. You can start with 30 seconds, 60 seconds. You could even get to the point where you could do 5 minutes, 15 minutes. Jen, I don't know what the longest is we've done together, but like 30 or 60 minutes,
Mhm. Yeah.
But it really can be such a powerful thing, and there's a lot of questions that people have, when it comes to presence. Like, what if thoughts come up? That's okay. Like, just let them come up and go. It's like when we resist them, that's what persists. So if a thought comes up, you can, watch it float away on a cloud, or watch it take off on a train, or, whatever it is. Just let it come and go naturally. It's okay. And some other people might think, what if I laugh or cry or feel sleepy? Like, that's okay too. That's just your body releasing emotions. They can get really caught up inside of us. And so it's okay to experience that, and another common question might be, how often should I do it? Anytime that you feel the need is the
Mhm.
perfect time. I think the power of presence, especially with a new service provider on your team, having that, the power of confront, which, like Jen mentioned, is just the ability to be with somebody or something. Presence creates that. And that is
Mhm.
like one of the most powerful tools that you can give somebody inside of their tool belt. Because, as think back to when you were a new service provider, if that was ever a hat that you wore inside of your salon, sometimes it was just like so scary to see that client for the first time. And that's presence. And when you can become more present with more people, that is one of the most powerful tools to have in your tool belt, for sure.
Mhm. I remember you might have a similar story, Linz, when I first was taught presence many years ago. And I didn't, I think it might have been the way it was set up, or maybe I just didn't understand it. I thought I was supposed to stare into their soul,
Yeah.
and I was like, what is really happening here? And so, like, when one of our spiritual teachers, really
Mhm.
helped us to understand the power of presence, like really there's so much power in just being able to be with someone, to not have those judgments against them, to really just be there. Like, that is just like when you really can do that and teach your team to do that, like that's where like your life really can have a transformation. And so, like, we know this is going to be helpful for you as a salon owner, but like Lindsay was sharing in some of the stories, like it's a beautiful thing to teach your team too. So when we think about like, how can we do that? How can we teach our team the power of presence, and what are some applications that we can use to help them understand? Because, I think one thing too, like Lindsay was mentioning, like when you're teaching someone new to learn to do a consultation, I think the most beautiful part you can do, instead of just blabbing at the mouth of like, what do you want to do today? Which I hope no one that's listening would do that, but like just taking 1 minute of connection, that minute of presence, and it changes the entire experience for the client. And so let's talk about some ways that we can really help your team understand presence.
Yeah. So you might be thinking, how could I incorporate this? How could I teach them? So, really just at your next salon celebration would be an incredible opportunity, really explain the concept of what presence is. Presence is just the ability to be with anyone or anything. And, help them to understand, like Jen mentioned, we're not staring into each other's souls. This is just really the opportunity to just be with somebody. Let them know, like we mentioned, some different things that might come up for them. They might, laugh or cry or get sleepy or feel loving thoughts. It doesn't even matter what's happening. We're not here to judge, ourselves for how we feel or what comes up for us. Or like Jen mentioned, we're not here to judge the other person either. It's really just taking that minute. Usually minute is a good sweet spot to start with, to have that brief moment where you are just present with somebody. You're not thinking about the past or the future. And even if it does come up, oh, well, just, let it drift on, but just encourage them to be present with each other, so that they can really see how connected and powerful it makes them feel, and usually when you do something like this, you want to do a minute and then you want to take some shares from the room. Like, would anybody like to share what it was like for them? Or would anybody like to share what happened for them? Getting the team to talk, because they'll start to notice like everybody has different experiences, but they might recognize themselves in a few of those experiences. And I think what's really cool is like when you start doing this and you do it over, a couple years or whatever it might be, we don't do it at every salon celebration, but we do try to do it at least once a year, sometimes multiple times. It's fun to hear the people who've done it 4 years ago versus today, and just their experience and their, you'd never judge, nobody's experience of presence is right or wrong, but just to hear their evolution with it is just really powerful.
That's so good. Actually, this morning at our salon celebration, we did a fun challenge with presence. Setting up the context is something we've been, talking about for years, but it's still so powerful to see everybody re-energized after a presence exercise. So like you can do this with your team, just have them line up like face to face. And then, set a clock. It can be for like 20 seconds. If you've never done it, it can be 5 seconds. Like sometimes 5 seconds can do so much for someone. And just have like each person across the way, like get present and, begin here, or begin now. And then, countdown, don't count down out loud, but like letting that 15 to 20 seconds pass. And then you can switch with a partner. And the feedback, I'm just sharing this so the impact they have on a team is the feedback was, I feel more calm. I feel more at peace. I feel more excited for the day. I feel more grateful. And so like, this is a beautiful exercise to do. Like if you're feeling like there is some chaos or some confusion going on your team, it's probably because presence could be missing. Everyone is just so outward focused that they can't even get connected and just be with someone.
I love that. That's a beautiful example of the power of presence, and I think when you're able to really marry that presence and the release of guilt together, let's talk about some of the benefits that you can expect, because like, what can you expect from letting go and being present? And I think some of the benefits of letting go of guilt are that you have increased focus, reduced stress, improved confidence, and I think another thing that really happens when you let go of guilt is that you just have a greater sense of connection to yourself and others. And, that's such a powerful thing. And then, when you pair that together with the benefits of practicing presence, I think you can feel calmer. You start to feel less reactive. So if a situation happens, you're able to respond instead of just react and fly off the handle. And I think that you just start to feel more in control of your life. It really helps enhance your communication and it strengthens your relationships, especially with people on your team, but, with anybody that you're practicing that presence with, for sure.
Awesome. All right. So now is the time where you get to spend some time alone or pick out a time on your calendar where you get to do the exercise of removing what no longer serves you, removing that guilt. Do those exercises and you'll see a transformation in your life. Feel free to, share just even this podcast with your team or share it with another salon owner that will help benefit their business. Because we know the power of presence, the power just to be with someone is something that gives you unshakable confidence and will transform your life.